Uh-oh, he's dreamy. I'm just kidding, I look awful. So I said I might make a tier list. I'm doing that. I'm doing that now. It's the video where I do the tier list. It's the tier list video. Alright, we're gonna start off simple with the 3 baseline vocations. That's Fighter, Strider, and Mage. Fighter is very, very solid. There's honestly very little to actively complain about. Can it keep up with the damage of certain other vocations? Probably not, but it has most of them beat in terms of defensive capability. The sheer fact that it has access to perfect blocking as a mechanic provides it with a massive benefit, along with some genuinely useful, unique skills like Dragon's Maw. It's very important to remember for this entire video that each of these vocations is basically supposed to have some sort of weakness or drawback, because actually having one be good at everything would completely goof up the balance and ruin the whole point. In Fighter's case, this weakness is naturally a lack of ability to engage at range. I've mentioned before that I don't think this actually hurts Fighter to any major degree, but it is naturally gonna set it back a bit when compared to vocations that do have access to that. Now, because this is a bit limiting, Fighter ain't top tier, but I definitely say it's solid enough to stand in A tier. I made some adjustments and I look much better now. Thanks a lot, you dickhead camera. Next up, Strider. Strider's in a pretty interesting position. First off, of the 3 starting vocations, it's probably the most batshit. Also, I don't think I've heard of anyone starting off as Strider and not having fun, but because Assassin inherits so many of its good skills, Strider would fall into the just play that instead situation if it wasn't for a lot of unique benefits that make it hold its ground as a solid alternative for anyone going all in on daggers. Helm Splitter to name one, but also stuff like the passive boost to movement speed, climbing speed, and damage dealt while climbing. Given it also makes good use of the short bow for versatility, I'm probably comfortable putting this in A tier, like scratching the surface of S tier, I'd say. Very, very capable and not really held back by anything. It's just that the vocations up in S tier tend to excel in certain areas just a little bit more. So next we have Mage. Let's make one thing very clear. No vocation can support like Mage does. That's just a fact. Sorcerer has some support skills, as does Magic Archer, but neither one can match Mage in this regard. And I have heard stories of folks who play as Mage and support their pawn, which I think is fine. I'm not about to tell anyone how to have fun, but in regards to raw efficiency, I wouldn't recommend it because there's almost no way the AI of a pawn could be so capable as to outpace the damage of an actual player. Unless the player is, not very good at dealing damage. In which case, yeah, maybe play Mage. As a vocation for pawns, I'd be putting this in S tier, but that's not what this tier list is about. It's specifically a tier list of vocations for the Arisen. I might get a bit of flack for this one, but I am sadly gonna have to put Mage down in C tier. Have you ever, on a fresh playthrough, selected Mage as your starting vocation? Because it's kind of hellish. I honestly have a suspicion that a lot of people have done that and quit the game because of it. It just takes what's already a fairly challenging game to begin with and makes it that much more difficult. As a vocation for Arisen, Mage suffers from the fact that it lacks the sheer power of Sorcerer, but still has almost all of the drawbacks. Casting doesn't take as long as Sorcerer's beefed up spells do, but it still takes time, and as such you're very reliant on your pawns to keep attention off of you. All the while you are very squishy, and the actual damage you're going to be putting out is small, unless you just use Holy Focus Bolt, because that seems to do fuck tons of damage. But it's also not unique to Mage, and if you wanted to do that, you'd basically just be better off with Sorcerer instead. That's probably Mage's biggest strike against it, the sheer fact that outside of support, when it comes to damage and capability in combat, you're just about always better served going with Sorcerer instead. Listen, if you're a warrior main, and you're watching right now, don't worry, homie. I got you. While Warrior is highly specialized and basically lacks versatility completely, I genuinely believe it is largely undervalued. Now, played standardly, Warrior is roughly B tier, I'd say, because it does have some genuine shortcomings that I won't overlook. Along with lacking options, it's fairly slow, struggles with flying enemies, and lacks the defensive capabilities of vocations like Fighter. But it's built to be a straight-up cannon of raw physical damage. Obviously, augments can be utilized by any vocation, but Warrior specifically grants Sanctuary, and probably benefits from it the most. Especially when you take things like knockdown into the equation, Warrior can actually do some wild stuff. But I will admit that unfortunately it gets the short end of the stick, specifically in Bitter Black Isle, because things like knockdown have such little impact there, which unfortunately really clips Warrior's wings, because I'd say that's something the vocation is designed around. I still believe in it though. I believe that with the right player behind it, Warrior can feasibly reach A tier, and possibly even S tier if someone's cracked enough. That might be copium. I'm gonna have to do some kind of Warrior challenge run, aren't I? Alright, Ranger. I don't think that many people would disagree that Ranger is strong, but I feel like I should explain my thought process here. I'd say that in terms of raw power, this game leans towards physical over magical, and ranged over melee. The reason I say that is magic is powerful, but it takes time to wind up, and you can only target a general area with spells, which is usually pretty accurate, but it tends to take a second to line up correctly. While physical stuff allows you to be a lot more direct and act immediately. Do that at a range rather than in melee, it means that not only do you not have to put yourself right into immediate danger to attack, you don't have to spend time covering distance to do so. Ranger can just instantly line up a shot the second a threat presents itself, and the immense amount of damage it can put out in a matter of seconds means I'm putting this one in S tier. Obviously, Rangers lack any kind of defensive capability and don't have the more focused melee of Strider, but it almost doesn't matter given how they can fend for themselves at close range with specific longbow skills. This vocation just has almost nothing holding it back in my opinion. The yellow vocations in general eat real damn well in this game. Now, you might be forgiven for thinking I dislike casters, but personally, I think Sorcerer absolutely nails what it's built for. It's just a straight up victory of a class. Like I mentioned, vocations are basically always gonna have a weakness, and I don't think anyone will argue that Sorcerer's definitive drawback is the long cast times. So like any caster, you're fairly reliant on your party, but Sorcerer is just this walking nuke of magical damage. In fact, I think you could compare this to Warrior as its magical equivalent, in a sense, because both are slower paced vocations built around doing big wombo bursts of damage. Warrior for physical and Sorcerer for magical. Sorcerer definitely has a bit of an edge here though, because not only do a lot of their spells cover a wide area from a hopefully safe distance, they can also exploit a variety of weaknesses. So I think I'm gonna go with A tier for Sorcerer. The sheer variety of its spells coupled with the enormous power behind them makes it a very strong vocation. If it could cast faster, it would probably be an S tier. Obviously there are items for that along with spell syncing, but as far as I'm aware, it's not like you can reel them off instantly. You're always gonna need a bit of wind up. Alright, Mystic Knight. Actually, no, sorry. This is, I fucked up the images. So instead we get whatever this is. Yeah, you already know this one's S tier. Water is wet. So not only does Mystic Knight have probably the best defensive capability in the game, it also has insane stuff like Abyssal Anguish, Ruinous Sigil, access to skills like Burst Strike. Then on top of it all, it also has Great Cannon, which is just dumb levels of powerful. Like, I don't really have a lot to say about this one, to be honest. You've got physical and magical damage covered. You can cover most ranges. A potential drawback is you can't cover ranges as immediately as vocations with bows. You gotta set up your spells, do a bit of casting. I don't know what I'm doing. But yeah, I mean, Mystic Knight's insane. Like what what do you want me to say? It's strong. It's very, very, very strong. It's good. It's good. It's good class. A lot of people like it, and they have very good reason to like it. S tier. That's where it goes. I think I'm just starting to look more disheveled over the course of this video. Magic Archer is just a vocation I always find intriguing, because while you can definitely see how we got from Fighter to Mystic Knight, and from Strider to Assassin, I look between Mage and Magic Archer, and I just make the Tim Allen noise. This vocation has such an odd assortment of skills. Like, it actually has a pretty hefty deal of support utility under its belt, but at the same time, it has unhinged shit like Great Sacrifice. Of the three hybrids, I dare to count it as the weakest between them because it doesn't quite, hold on, because it doesn't quite share their same focus for raw damage, but that's still not saying much because they're all just top of the line, and Magic Archer really isn't far behind in the slightest. It's still basically neck and neck. Straight up, Immolation alone is reason enough to put it into S tier. It's just so fucking absurd. The sheer fact that you can just sit there and deal damage that has no right to be as high as it is, for the borderline non-existent effort of grabbing a motherfucker and staying still. Magic Archer is a fucking silly, goofy vocation. I love it. Sorry, it's not Magic Archer, it's Magic Archie. Finally, we have Assassin. It may not seem like it, but I'm actually a cool customer who keeps his preferences close to his chest. I still don't know where to put this. Okay, yes, I'm putting it in S tier, but I'm justified, so it doesn't matter if I have a bias. You know that meme that's like,
have you heard of the critically acclaimed MMORPG Final Fantasy XIV now with an expanded free trial?
Yeah, that's me, but with Assassin. Assassin is an interesting case, because it's sort of intended to be a jack-of-all-trades, master-of-none situation, and yeah, Ranger is a better dedicated archer, and it can never compete with other vocations in regards to raw magic. But when you're looking at its melee capabilities, that just doesn't really apply. Assassin is capable of setups that result in some of the highest damage in the game, hands down, typically only rivaled by the other hybrids. That's all there is to it, really. Alright, so, this was very difficult to decide on, and also very fun. But I think what I want people to actually take away from this video is that every vocation is viable, and every vocation has the capacity to be very, very good. Even if that doesn't translate directly to damage, they all serve respective purposes and do so very well. So yeah, that's it. Bye. I'm putting Assassin in S tier. I hope you enjoyed my video. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, be sure to subscribe, drop a like, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. You can join my Discord for updates and to hang out with the lovely members of the Thieves Guild. I can also be followed on Twitter, and if you'd like to support the channel, you can do so on Patreon, or simply donate directly via PayPal. Links can be found in the description below. Have a great day. I'll catch you next time.